All right, welcome back to another episode of Dream Chasers Insanity. It is your host, the Dropout Professor, Dark Wizard Destiny. I'm here to give you some more quality information on whatever journey you're on. Hopefully, it's a creative one because that's the community I'm desiring to build here. Before we get into this video, you know what we usually like to do. We'll get into my promos. Check the links in the description below. If you can't donate or you can't participate in contributing to this channel, go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, share to somebody that you really love, and have a conversation about the conversations we're having here, and maybe that'll be a quality icebreaker for you. Go ahead and check out our board real quick, and then I'm going to get into this because this is going to be a very, very, very fun one. A little quick note I'd like to add in here before we truly begin is I fleshed out the whole entire self-concept series and posted that up, but something in my head is starting to realize, all right, maybe you gave him a little too much too fast and you weren't able to truly get into explaining fully every single one of those concepts that you put together in that scrapbook. So I want, over the next couple of weeks, I want to take a lot more time to truly dig into the perspectives and the theories that I've been giving so we can really start to see, oh, it's a matter of what we can control, our mind, our awareness, our soul, our present experiences that plays the best impact on the opportunities we have beyond this present moment. So if we can just take control of those circumstances, if we can just be responsible for what we have access to, let's let everything else go up to chance, because we've already played all our cards, and that's all we can do in this life. Hopefully these videos are not, they don't come from the perspective of telling you to do more work or give more of yourself out to receive less. Hopefully these are allowing you to truly be able to recognize and acknowledge the value that already exists within you. And we are asking you, me and my team and my people, my collective is asking you to learn how to share that with the world while also compensating yourself so you can meet your own needs, but sharing that with the world and making that a lifestyle that you can truly wake up and love every day. Not one that you have to wait until 5 p.m. to escape from, like most people probably do, which is horrible to me. All I want to do, I know I can't go out of my way and save everybody from their own specific circumstances, but one thing I do know is that if there was advice I could have had earlier points in my career, in my lifestyle, I still probably wouldn't have taken it, but if there was advice that could have helped me see a truth beyond the mistakes that I've already made, beyond the lies and the scams and the illusions that I still had yet to fall for, and probably still have yet to fall for in the future, I'm leaving all these crumbs behind. And hopefully you eat every single one of them and you follow me to my house in the woods, and then I can bake you in. Big plan, big plan, big plan. I don't want this to ever be too like, yes, this is serious. This is your life. This is me, the rockstar coach, helping you, the rock star in your life, take full advantage of the experience that you have beyond the limitations that not only you probably put on yourself, but your experiences put on you, your peers put on you, your environment puts on you, and society puts on you. There's just so much of this world that expects the most out of you, and it's like, what is there left to give yourself? What energy, what time, what intention, what investment is there to give to your dreams and what you're passionate about, and the things that would, if you actualized or you pursued, would actually fulfill you in all the ways that these other nasty and negative coping mechanisms don't? Like, imagine if it wasn't just a silly little hobby. Imagine if it was the thing that you came to this world to do. Even if you're not selling out stages, or you're not selling 1 million copies, or you're not meeting the president, imagine if it was what you came here to do. And even if all you do is that act, an hour, 10 minutes, 10 hours a day, that is a part of your purpose as a human being. And neglecting investing in that, neglecting investing your time and yourself into that, thinking that you can sacrifice that for the validation of a society that doesn't accommodate you fully already, then the world, when you get ready to complain about your circumstances, about your suffering, the world's going to blame you for not making these decisions. Because in the moment, making these decisions to change your life, to live authentic to who you really are, in a world of people who are afraid to do that and shame other people out of doing that, that can be scary now, very scary right now, but imagine being on the back end of your life. I don't want to. Imagine being on the back end of your life thinking about all the regrets that you have, all the opportunities you didn't take, the people that you didn't pursue, the careers that you didn't pursue, the skills that you didn't develop, the hobbies you didn't have, all because you were afraid, because you were ignorant, because you were scared. Because you thought that your circumstances and your reality was bigger than you, and it wasn't just literally a playground for you to grow and develop in, based on the circumstances and challenges that you put yourself within. Not the cycles of ease and comfort that you put yourself through to avoid taking responsibility for being the rock star that you are. And I understand mainstream media has done a very great job of convincing us that rock stars are just like drug addicts who don't care about their life and they're having with everything. And I'm going to make another video on that because I believe that's I have a completely different perspective than you may think on that. But one thing the mainstream media doesn't want us to know is that creative artists are very intellectual, very deep, very emotional, very vulnerable when allowed to get to that point. Very expansive, impactful beings to this world. Just as important, if not more important, than the capitalist that steals and extracts all the value that we create. But we as a society will never understand the value the creative artist has until the creative artist themselves starts to value themselves in that way and starts to be willing to recognize that and then stand on that in a world that says, give me everything you have and I'll give you some compensation for it. You say, no. I am this valuable. You give me what I want and I give you the value I have. Those are the kinds of conscious creators I'm trying to create on this page. So if this is what you're interested in, go ahead and stay for the journey. This is going to be crazy. Now, as a consequence of nepotastic capitalism, there's a lot of the people in the creative field or the creative industry that are just rich kids who have no purpose. They have nothing better to do, so they end up just calling themselves artists by being able to have access to networking with or purchasing a bunch of art, mainstream art, and then just kind of throwing it into a giant mixing pot like a salad, and then saying that, oh, look at my unique creative expression. I was inspired by these people. And it's like, wait a second. You're just a rich clout chaser who couldn't maintain the financial portfolio that your investment banker and your doctor parents had. So now you're calling yourself an artist to avoid the fact that you need to get a job and you need some responsibility in your life. And you being able to validate yourself as a rich kid who just puts the identity of artist on and cosplays that role completely bastardizes the awareness of what a true artist is and cannot genuinely inspire anybody to be a real artist, can only inspire real artists to hate themselves and the art that they're not getting validation for, and then make consumers think that falsified art is actually valuable, taking their real appreciation away from real artists who just aren't getting the right traction because of capitalism. So I may have some wealthy creative artists on here that just are actually genuine creative artists, but understand, when I'm speaking about the creative artist who literally got forced into this position by trauma, by loss, by lack, by rejection, forced to lean on this aspect of my life to create a whole life worth living, worth truly investing in. I'm speaking for the ones that came out of nothing, bro, from the gutter. And maybe not even that, just kids who haven't come from support, especially support in their creative path. Because those of us who grew up without support systems, especially professional support systems, society tells us you're poor, get a job that underpays you. Don't think about being a creative artist. That's for rich kids. That's for people who have time to waste. And I'm tired of hearing that because I don't care what financial situation I'm in. I was born an artist and I was born to be one at all aspects of my life. And I was born to use every experience that I've ever had and every emotion I've ever felt to express who I am and allow people to resonate with these feelings and us to create a culture worth appreciating and enjoying in this life. And no matter how many gigs I get, no matter how many sales I make, no matter how many people I have in my community, I am the artist. And it's up to you when you want to decide that you're going to validate me in that way, but I can't choose that. Therefore, I will refuse to control that. So I will continue to cultivate the artist that is within me and align myself with other people who are willing to recognize that as early as possible so we can create a lifestyle or experiences authentic to the artist that I am, rather than me trying to prove myself to people who are enslaved to the validation of an industry that is completely rigged for rich kids and Nepo babies. So I'm speaking to the 9-to-5 creative artist. I'm speaking to the retail worker creative artist. I'm giving the creative artist who lives a regular everyday life an opportunity to truly reconnect with the self-belief that allows them to realize that they are not apart from accessing their creative identity in this life in any other way than them invalidating themselves and their ability to be that. And then one step further, them refusing to sacrifice the time of being just an existent in this reality to exist in their inner world and actually create something of value and express that into this same world that we are all just existing in. Okay? I apologize. I know that was a rant. It's just, and it's not like I don't hate you rich kids. I love you rich kids. It's just like I'm tired of you rich kids who aren't just like rich kids. Like we're all the cool rich kids who just have a lot of money and invest in like the opportunities, the invest in the parties, you support your friends, you do this, like you have wealth. And you fund the ideas and the visions and you allow people to actually actualize stuff because you know that money is the main obstacle for many people to actualizing their visions and their dreams. Oh, because in America, we're supposed to keep wealth under wraps so nobody begs you for money because they're probably starving, like most people are. So if you are the person that I described, the everyday, the brokey creative artist, then you were probably pushed into that place in your life. And of course, you could have been inspired and have your inspirations of so-and-so, this artist, this. But remember, you were probably pushed to rely, like back against the wall, to rely on your creative art to create a lifestyle for you. And I know I'm kind of going all over the place here, but that is the initiation test for a creative artist, I believe. Can you create your own salvation from the bounds of your cursed circumstances? Are you creative enough to think, well, if I save this money here and put this money into this account, and then I pay for this course and I show up to this event, in the next 6 months, I'll be able to have a... Do you see how the average everyday person doesn't think like that? They're just thinking like, well, I have bills to pay, so I'm going to get a job, and then I'm just going to get in a relationship to reinforce the ideas I want to think about myself, and then I'm just going to exist for the next 60 years and hope everything works out right. Consumer. The creative lifestyle is not just being able to create art. It's being able to create strategy, create patterns, create dreams, create opportunity where there is none. And that's why it's like, there's some statistic that says like 99% of businesses fail after the first year. They fail because you are consumers attempting to cosplay entrepreneurs and creative artists so you can get rich like they do. But you don't understand, unless you have nepotism money to lie and to do the whole mergers and acquisition stuff. You actually have to create. You actually have to be creative. You actually have to adapt to the way that the culture is moving, the way that society is changing, the way that the world is changing, and the needs of the people in that world are changing, and then those ecosystems are changing. You have to be adaptable, and you have to be powerful and precise, and you have to be willing to risk it all the time. And even if you're not risking it all the time, you have to be willing to risk as much as possible at a moment's notice. And many people are not comfortable doing that and would much rather just exist in a world where all they have to do is report somewhere for 8 to 10 hours a day, get paid enough money to pay their bills or just to stay afloat, and not have to take full responsibility for the failures or success of something that could absolutely sabotage their entire identity. I don't know why I'm so passionate about this. Maybe it's because it's just I've seen too many, like I'm just watching too many rich kids in like the creative arts and entertainment industry take advantage of opportunities that are being given to them to like prolong the culture as long as possible rather than that money being invested into real creatives to carry us into a new generation of creativity and art and genres. But crazy, all those real creatives are minorities. So we can't give them money because then they're going to take that money and reinvest it in themselves and then give it to their kids instead of us Aryans being able to give it to our kids and they give it to their kids and then they use all that money to be even more racist to everybody else. Because that's how America works. The, the decision that you're going to have to make to conclude this phase one of this, the decision that you're going to have to make as a creative is, are you willing to surrender the validation of, I'm not going to read this word for word because I have to explain it. Are you willing to surrender the validation of your soul, your inner calling, your intuition? Are you willing to suppress that by any means possible to hope, like to get on this journey of going out into the world and putting yourself out there and being a slave and selling all your validation to hope that one of these slave masters gives you enough validation to feel like you're a house slave instead of a field slave? Or are you going to sacrifice the way that people perceive you and the limitations that people put on you in this life right now? Are you going to let that go for an opportunity to explore everything that you could be and then give the world an opportunity to appreciate that on a schedule that doesn't confine you and your ability to create? Are you willing to take those steps out of the social game that everybody's constantly playing? Are you willing to take those steps, those 1, 2, 3 steps out of the game and say, you know what, I'm sitting on the sideline for a little bit because I need to figure out who I am. So when I am playing that game, I can be much more confident in how I'm expressing myself rather than waiting for somebody to tell me I am something that I like or something that makes me feel comfortable and then clinging on to that person in codependency to hope that they can keep validating me in ways that I refuse to validate myself. Final thought. Final thought before we get into phase two. The juice, the rumpty rump of this video. This is a personal perspective as well. And hopefully, if you can get to this point in your life, you can at least address it with the truth every time that you ask yourself these kinds of questions. I grew tired of losing myself and my dignity. I grew tired of losing myself and my dignity, sacrificing respect, earning respect by chasing not just love, chasing illusions of love. Because I have not loved myself enough or have been loved enough in my foundation to even have an awareness as to what could truly love me and love me in a way authentic to like my soul, in a way that's actually conducive to the growth of who I am. And I have to go on that process, on that journey of exploring all those different ways in which I can do that. So now when other people now start to invest in me or want to create an opportunity to do that, I have the discernment and I have the boundaries and I have the standards that I can gauge them against. There's only two places you can go after getting tired of being disrespected It's going out of your way to say, girls don't like nice guys, so I'm going to be a bad boy. That's the immature way of going, and then starting to abuse people and now becoming the same villain that turned you into a villain. Or you decide, you know what? I'm tired of chasing love in other people, because doing that is showing me that I refuse to believe I can validate the love that I have for myself or my ability to be aware of myself. And I will chase everybody else, especially people who can self-validate and can affirm themselves, to hope that they can do that for me. And to hope and to be naive enough to think that I would get respect on the other end of initiating relationships by disrespecting myself. For love, for validation. When I can love myself enough to not have to be or not have my well-being dependent on if other people can love me or not, and just appreciating those who do and allowing people who don't to have those feelings, because this is a free will universe. If you got to pull a journal out, if you got to pull a book out, you got to pull something. If you got to send this to the president of the United States, go ahead and do that. But remember, this test, it's literally just, it's not like the universe says, here's a 50 million bajillion page test, and I'm going to put it on your desk, and then now you got to take it, and if you fail, you're not going to be able to be a creative artist. This gets awakened within you, and you, every time you do your little introspective journaling, every time you have these deep conversations, every time you meditate, you're going to be faced with this. And the more you don't address it, the more you feel insecure about it, the further away you're going to run from it, and the louder the noise is going to get. The louder the call is going to get. And the dreams that you once had about your life are going to start haunting you, because they know you can actualize them. They're just trying to convince you to stop convincing yourself you can't. Okay, so we decided to say, you know what? I'm tired of sacrificing respect. I'm tired of sacrificing having my own real identity to hope somebody else will give me one that I can fully accept. Whether it be from a relationship, whether it be from a career, whether it's from a hobby even, pursuing it just to have an identity validated within yourself, whether it's a religion and you only carry an identity so people can perceive you as a good person, to make you feel like you're a good person and release that anxiety of not truly knowing how to accept yourself and all of those dark desires that you have beneath the surface. Finding a real place and purpose for them in your life, or at least addressing them so the people in your life and the world around you doesn't become a victim of the darkness that you reject and you put a title on top of to act like it's not there. Again, I speak about this in my self-concept series, and this is a whole 5-hour course. If you want to participate in that kind of consciousness and that kind of damn near occult wisdom, go ahead and jump on it. But right now, I'm going to just quickly go into the value of understanding the threefold metric of a human being. This is what I personally believe. The inner world of the human being is the mind, the body, and the soul. That is just the foundational awareness I personally have right now. Feel free to argue with it. Feel free to add on to it. But as I've been going on my own personal shamanic journey, I've understood that this reality we live in, a quick side note, this reality we live in is just some super advanced mathematic game. And it's just like, the reason why we can't, something in me wants to believe the reason why we can't call it mathematic is because it's so perfectly scripted, like perfectly crafted, and the intention behind every single aspect of this reality is just so perfect. It seems spiritual, and it is spiritual. But in understanding that the inner workings of the universe are very scientific, very mathematical, very engineerical, if that's a word, I definitely know that's not a word. You have to realize that, oh, as an autistic person like myself, I can see those patterns in the universe, and I can fill those patterns in with the real circumstances of my present reality to help me better navigate a life, a human life that humans have been living for thousands of years before me. And I can take nuggets of the information that they have acquired, of the knowledge they have been blessed with, and apply that to my circumstances to make the life I'm living right now a better place. Because there truly is no better time to exist than right now. And most of your suffering comes from not being able to do that. But the mathematical part, the patterns, the strategy part of the universe, as somebody who also studies the human being, the number 3 is very important. I'm starting to realize that 2 is not the balance number. Like duality, I understand duality, but duality is not the balance point. 3 is the balance point. Like that is the true method of balance. And I wish we understood that more as a society. But because we don't, I'll give you a little quick consequence. We have heaven and hell fighting against each other all day, or Republicans and Democrats yanking power back and forth all day, instead of realizing that there's 3 parties always that need to be served, and one party not being served is what's causing the ruckus between the two, because there's no mediator. That's a super deep concept, but I don't want to get into it right now because that's going to be a whole other like 20 minutes. So I really want to focus on how that applies to you as a creative artist, and understanding the rule of 3 as a human being, and how that can help organize aspects of your life to help be more intentional. Again, you heard me say that the first rule of 3 of the inner world of the human is the mind, body, and the soul. Now, to align that mind, body, soul rule of 3 to the external world of the human being still, I have plotted it and said that your soul aligns with your persona, your mind, which is like the structures of your being, align with your peers and your people, like the support system, basically your tribe. And then your body, the vessel that you're using to actualize your soul through into this experience, or actualize your desires, your dreams, your visions into this experience. I had to align body with purpose, because a purposeful body does great work. And a body that lacks purpose will destroy itself. And if it respects itself a little too much, it'll destroy the world first. So understand that rule of 3, and how we need 3 to balance, to totally balance. As a creative artist, we must understand what our ability is to access these foundational aspects of our own self-conscious before we're able to sell a record, before we start to do anything that is in relation to finding success on the journey. Because if we aren't a person who's willing to receive that opportunity, and who's actually having the opportunity to actualize on that, if we aren't that person, we are going to be the reason why we don't actualize our dreams. And even worse than that, we are going to have to be responsible for carrying that weight. We can't blame it on anybody else. We can't project responsibility of failure onto anybody else or onto any circumstances, because it was us who had the opportunity, and us who wasn't ready for it, and us who it up. And that's a very, very hard thing for people to deal with. Think about people who failed as athletes. Shit, I failed as an athlete. It literally haunts you, because at some point in that journey, you can say whatever you want about, I didn't have the right equipment, I didn't have the right access to this, I didn't have a support system, nobody believed in me. But once you get through all of those excuses, however many million they are, you're going to have to get to the foundation and say, I just wasn't good enough. The time came, the opportunity was there, and I was there, and I failed. I lost. I got rejected. And that was it. I put my whole life aside for this, and I lost. Many people will never, ever, ever get to that point because it's just so overwhelming and so just heartbreaking, heart-wrenching. But as a creative artist, as a creative person, you have to realize that you will die 1,000 lives in your mind just to realize that your soul is forever. Don't continue to punish yourself in the same ways that like a traditional consumer in this society would. Allow yourself an opportunity to meet your needs so you can give us art authentic to the life that you are really engaged in, you're really living in. There's a lot of, and one thing about it in this society we're living in, because it's just a bunch of hyper consumers cosplaying as creatives, you can tell that these are fake creatives because there's no like inspiration other than somebody else's flow and then biting them out of it. It's never, well, I grew up in this circumstance and this, like, I'm spitting that pain. Or I grew up in a circumstance where people didn't believe in me, so I got to talk and I got to let people know that I'm him. Or I grew up without knowing if there was going to be food on the table. So I worked every single day to make sure I was never going to have to wake up and think like that again. And that's the kind of emotion, that's the kind of pain I put into my music, into my art. You don't have that. Because now people are being forced to completely be slaves to their horrible circumstances and not given any kind of opportunity to have any hope or belief in a future that they can transcend the circumstances to put themselves in a position to create valuable art from that. If you're a creative artist, stop focusing on going viral. Stop focusing on having a bunch of fans and selling out shows. Focus on you and making sure that you as a person genuinely desire to be on this non-traditional lifestyle, on this non-traditional path. And as we organize these aspects of our lives, the real minor, if what feels like minor foundational aspects of our lives, we are going to be able to get even more creative because we won't be spending our attention, our creative attention and energy on lack, on not having support, on not knowing who we are. We'll be spending all of that energy on continuing to express and to create and to grow into the fullness or a more real version of who we believe ourselves to be. And then, I've said this earlier, the journey becomes, how much can I express myself genuinely into this world, rather than how many people can love me to validate an identity of me that I don't even accept within myself yet. And I'm hoping I'll be able to accept after the world validates it. This is why they say fame is a drug, bro, because if you don't know how to give yourself that intense, immense amount of love and reciprocation of energy, especially as a creative artist in a consumer society, you're going to be chasing that validation that the fans give you forever, because nobody else will give you such a validation like that other than a narcissist who's love bombing you, and yourself, who actually cares about yourself beyond the expectations of the greater world. But very, very, very few people have that last one and mean it. As you're cultivating this self-concept, I don't, let me check, let me make sure this is still recording. Oh, perfect. So as you're cultivating this self-concept, I want you to know this isn't just going to be like all sunshine and rainbows here. You're still going to have to sacrifice. Like, to gain anything in this life comes a lot of sacrifice. And the issue is just there's not a lot of support for people like us in this world. So we do have to take a lot more responsibility for making sure our needs are met and we can have a foundation to create art off of. Because you got to really think, in the past, the only people that were paying artists to do really great work were the church, and the church owned everything. So basically you had unlimited resource if you were chosen to do something. Now at this time, we're so hyper individual. That's the weird thing about Americans. They said, let's not be slaves together. Let's all be slaves on our own. in somebody else's house. So, to not be too, to not get too much into this, because I know most of you guys have probably already experienced this stuff. I'm just kind of awakening it in for you to remember. If you aren't willing to validate the creative artist in you yet, if you've gone through these things, you're going to have to know that you are. You're going to have to know that you are. And even if you aren't a creative, you came to this earth to create something from yourself and give it to the world, because nobody else came here to do that. You're going to have an increased need for creative community because of people abandoning you for changing your self-concept, people rejecting you for wanting to be somebody that they're not willing to accept you as, or people literally just slandering you because they don't want to accept the fact that you guys can go separate ways without there being some kind of actual genuine problem to break off the connection or the relationship or the circumstance. So yeah, it's an isolating journey for sure. But what better way to be ushered in to acknowledging and finally being forced to love and accept the self, other than by the first phase, literally like a football fall camp, losing everybody who really isn't about it. Everybody who's not about it's getting out right now. And then literally right after that, I'm going to have to be forced to decide what the value is of me outside of everything that I've just been through. And then from that point, we can start going into a world of people who not only see me for me and how I'm expressing myself, because hopefully I'm not afraid to do that anymore, but I can start making connections that align with the person that I can slowly start to see myself becoming. Because the deeper I go metaphysically within myself, pause, the further out it allows me to see, not into the future, but it further out allows me to expand into the realm of infinite possibilities that could exist. And from accessing all the way out there, I can then start to backtrack to myself the steps that are necessary for me right now to take to actualize that future into the present moment. Because the future doesn't exist anywhere but in your mind. I'm also creating a platform for this anyway. Like I've decided that we live in a world where I can just like wake up and have dope ideas and create a bunch of programs that actually help people. And this isn't like the early days of Spotify or these tech companies that really didn't care about anything but lining their own pockets. So I got a bunch of platforms I'm coming out with over the next 5 to 10 years, and I'm very excited for you guys to utilize them and really create some value on them. But so don't focus too much necessarily right now. If you don't have a community, don't be the person that is, oh my goodness, I can't do anything until I have community. And also don't be the person that says, oh, well, I need community so bad that the work is just like, I don't know what I was going to say. I was probably just going to repeat myself again. But don't be the person that is letting not having a community be the crutch. That's an opportunity for you to take care of your self-concept when you aren't in the hustle bustle of everyday life, of really chasing the validation of other people. Because when you can accept yourself, you can not only navigate through the rejection better, but you can also decide, you know what, this experience here, this opportunity, even though it may be really amazing to a person with an untrained eye, I respect myself a little bit too much for that opportunity. I'm going to let that pass and find somebody who really gives up about me and my value. That's the type of power that you develop by taking opportunities that seem like L's and seem like losses and flipping them into literally teleporting into your future, teleporting into the place that you want to be rather than walking the mile to there. You need people in your life with an inspiration-based lifestyle. Okay, maybe not one over the other. You need to balance the connections that you have in your life. Creative artists are inspiration-based people. Knowing that truth, you have to realize that they live off of the radical energy of their soul. I only put soul in quotes because that's like the inner energy, the inner being, and whatever that is to you, call it that. But you need to have, okay, motivation-based people, because motivation-based people can help you at least create some kind of consistent grounding in this capitalist society, in a world that isn't conducive to the creative path unless you're rich. So people can say, okay, well, I need to be motivated to help pay my bills, to make sure that I'm showing up to these events, to make sure that I'm networking, I'm outreaching. That is that external pressure. You need that, but in a healthy way. Okay? Consumer lifestyle people, their whole life is motivation based. They don't have the self-acceptance to be able to say, you know what, that outside opportunity that I'm dependent on doesn't serve me, so I'm going to let it go and wait for another one. They don't have that. They have to consume that opportunity even if it doesn't serve them. So remember, you have to balance the motivation in your life, the external pressure to produce and to create, with your internal inspiration and your own ability to validate the decisions you want to make and the paths you desire to go on. Balance. I'm glad we were able to make that connection right here, because balance of the lifestyle is going to allow you to pivot, to adapt, to transcend certain circumstances and areas of your life that many people will be enslaved to or limited by simply because they are not creative enough. You're going to have narcissistic levels of self-belief. I'm gonna be dead honest with you, bro. Like, if you really believe you're meant like that, if this is really a calling for you and you really believe you're meant to create some kind of art, even if you only create that art for a year and like you just stop and you do something else next year, you have to go delusional self-belief in until it actually fails in real life. Not when it fails in your mind, not when the person you like tells you it sucks, not when the person you look up to tells you it's horrible. When it fails, that's when you stop. And then you create something else because you're still a creative. You just failed at creating something. You're not a failed creator. You failed at creating something. Now that is apart from you. Now it is time to go back within, right back to the drawing board, and create from within again. Try something new. This is a world full of opportunity. Unless you're held at the mercy of external validation. Then your whole entire life is probably a test. I guess I'll just add this little part right here. When you truly desire, when you truly believe that this is a path that you want to go on and this is a person that you want to be in this world, and like you are relentless about proving that, people are going to say that you switched up because your priorities are going to change. It's like having a child. Your priorities change. You listen to music differently. You meditate differently. You journal differently. You have different conversations. You speak about different things. You think about different things. You care about different things. You are a fundamentally different person. And maybe it's not that you've changed. Maybe it's that you've had to change how you express yourself to be more authentic to who you've always been. You've just not been allowed to show, whether it be by external circumstances cutting you off or internal circumstances and limitations making it hard to get it out of your being. But this is a whole lifestyle change. Like I tell everybody, especially my non-traditional like 9-to-5 friends, this is a lifestyle. And the creative process is about finding not only how you create a life that you want to live, but creating the opportunities, creating the network, creating literally it's the whole aspect of this life is about creating. And you realize the more you create and the more success you find in creating, even if it's something as creating a routine that is successful or that helps you from a rut, you're gonna realize, damn, I want as much space and time and freedom and opportunity and abundance to be able to create as much as authentically as possible in this life. That's what most creatives, real creatives, when they're on their path, they say, there is no limits to this stuff. I didn't go to school to get a degree in being a very specific title and then to reject the opportunity or the potential that I could create and express myself in a bunch of different ways that feel even cooler than that one way that I got validation in. This is exciting stuff, man. This is exciting stuff. But again, I'm speaking about this stuff as like if you really want to be a rock star, you really want to be, and I'm telling you, like I desire to inspire the creatives that are rock stars in their 20s and 30s and even 40s, but they're still healthy human beings who were able to have the hobbies. They were able to invest in their portfolios. They were able to spend time with their families. And they're still able to have sanity when they're done after having a career of creating beautiful art for us to enjoy as human beings. That's the type of creative I'm trying to cultivate on here. The creative that not only creates art, creates value for the world to consume, but creates a lifestyle that they can consciously invest themselves in. We need more creatives who live real life. We need more creatives who really want this. Okay? Just like decide. I wish I could just freaking spray paint decide on this freaking board. Because that's where most of like the stagnant complacency in your life is coming from not making the major decision. Like you've made probably like 100 minor decisions that mean nothing. And I don't mean they mean nothing, but I'm telling you right now, they don't mean nothing in relation to if you just made this big decision. Because big decision means that all these minor decisions are changing. And again, they'll reinforce these mean nothing because once you've made this decision, now you have a bunch of new opportunities to start making choices around. And that's when, and the deeper you get on this journey, the more you go on here, the more you have to realize there is some divine force beyond me that I just have to surrender all of my fear, all of my suffering, all of my struggle to. And just hope that everything that I'm doing right now today with the opportunity I have is something that can push the needle forward to get me to where I'm trying to go tomorrow. Because that's the only thing I can control. That was a beautiful part 2. We're gonna wrap this video up in part 3 right now. Hold on. Before we even get started with this video, I got to show you guys something very important. I got to show you something very important. I hope you guys know where this quote comes from. With great power comes great responsibility. I made that up. Totally playing. This is my favorite superhero of all time. And of course, Miles Morales, that's like number one because like I feel represented through Miles Morales, even though he's not like a full black Spider-Man. This I'm going to have a poster of this, a giant poster of this Spider-Man, this freaking 90s Spider-Man TV show Spider-Man in my room one day. This is my hero. And the funny thing is that he didn't even say this quote. His uncle said his Uncle Ben said this quote to him as Uncle Ben was dying. Now, I'm not giving any more context on the situation. If you don't know the Spider-Man story, no, I'm playing. But what I'm trying to say is that there is no power to be taken. It's not just with great power comes great responsibility. There is no power at all without taking personal responsibility. Because you have no say in the consequences of any circumstances that you did not contribute to. You play no part in influencing and supporting and accommodating. Then it's not up to you. I want the creative artist as a collective to understand that they are the value. It is within them that is the value. And knowing that comes a ton of responsibility. in being able to address that, in being able to address, oh, it's not the art that I create that is the value necessarily. It is me who is the value, or at least me carrying the value, and my relationship with this being that carries the value, with this mind that actualizes, that sees, that understands, that literally plays as a medium for the value, and this being that carries, again, carries the value, intertwined with my living being. Once I recognize that, I am responsible for what happens to that value. I'm responsible for how that value is cultivated. I'm responsible for what that value does and how it can contribute to the greater world beyond myself once I express it outside of myself. I am responsible for making sure that that is aligned with who I am. So when there are real consequences that come with the expression of this art, I'm willing to take responsibility for that because that was my creation and that was my intention. With great power comes great responsibility. You have to be, and there's a great video I saw on TikTok saying that you don't want to be, actually, I'm not sure even what the first word was, but they said something about your art needs to be polarizing. It's not supposed to be, you're not supposed to be trying to have the expectation of being received properly necessarily. It's supposed to be polarizing to get eyes on it, to make people have people be forced to receive it, to feel something, because that's what this whole artistic journey is that we're on. Make people feel something. And hopefully they have the tools in their lives to understand how that feeling not only resonates with them, but can inspire them to do something in their life, whether it's to create something or to just do what they weren't doing. I wrote right here, allow your mind to be the paintbrush and your body to be the canvas. I wrote mosaic here, but I'm starting to realize I should have put canvas. And your body to be the canvas of your soul's love for this human life. This is the paintbrush. Your mind is the paintbrush, and you're dipping it into your soul. Dipping the paintbrush into your soul, and you're using your body, whether painting on top of your body or on top of your life, you are using that paintbrush to paint your experience and to find value in co-creating with the universe, to find value in being able to wake up and say, I am, I will, I do, I can, and that being real, and you being the person that can make that real. It's not taking value from outside of you and putting it within yourself. It's releasing your attachment to the perceived value of the external world so you can remember the value that exists deep within you already, and then decide how you're going to share that with the world beyond you. And that comes with a lot of self-belief. It comes with a lot of self-acceptance. It comes with a lot of faith, a lot of discernment. And those are some of the words that I've added here to the bottom. It comes with a lot of being able to self-validate. But that's why we go on a journey like this one. That's why we go on this type of stuff. Because if you genuinely think about it, you can never be, once you get on this journey, you can never be unemployed from being a creative artist unless you were never a creative artist to begin with. Unless you were just cosplaying the role of creativity. Once you get on this stuff, you're on it forever. This is a lifestyle. This is not a career path. Even though I might have said it right there. This is a lifestyle. And as crazy as it is to the person who doesn't understand it, the allistic, neurotypical person, more times than not, or the rich capitalist who doesn't see any value in art other than to make money off of it, or to clean their own laundered money, to launder their money, you're gonna seem like a crazy person until you start to really invest yourself intentionally into the life that you have. This society does not respect creative artists. It only respects consumers because it can enslave consumers. And then it can get consumers to enslave themselves. Creative artist is too real. The creative artist is too radical. The creative artist is too much of themselves to serve a system that only appreciates slaves. So I'm asking genuinely, if you believe you're a creative artist, are there aspects of your journey that you feel like you're neglecting? Are there parts of your story you feel like you're refusing to acknowledge because you're afraid of the consequences that come with being considered a creative artist in this capitalist society? Or are you afraid of being a failed creative in a world that gives you sedentary identity as a complex being? You have to realize we, as creative artists, understand ourselves and other creatives understand us. Consumers only appreciate us when we create something that they can consume and somehow appreciates their experience or fulfills their desire. We have to stop putting our own wellness and our own ability to appreciate ourselves in the hands of people who will only appreciate us after we've served them. We have to start finding ourselves in environments, in circumstances, and with people who love and appreciate the value of us before we serve them with the value that we have to give them from our soul. And that's where the discernment comes in. We'll probably get into an episode about discernment very soon here. I know these are like super long episodes, but I'm glad that you guys decide to sit down and watch me preach a little bit. Again, I want to thank you so much for showing up here. This is a very, very niche community, and to even see 1,000 of us here, to even see a couple thousand of us on TikTok, like this is crazy to me. And I'm just going to keep on creating art and keep on making this stuff and hope it continues to hit the people that it needs to hit at the moments it does. I can't control that. All I can do is share everything that I've learned and hope that you don't have to make the same mistakes that I've made. Hopefully we find each other on the other side of not just this video, but on the other side of this life, being able to appreciate the art that we genuinely create rather than living as slaves to a system that doesn't want to validate us for who we truly are. I love you guys forever. And if somebody's hating on you, fuck them. Catch y'all later.